Okay, Java Message Service, JMS in short. So here we are going to talk about what JMS is, and we'll talk about messaging modes and consumption modes, and then we are going to see how we can write JMS application using JMS API, and we'll talk about message types, and we'll talk about message-driven bean. This is one of the EJB bean type. And we'll talk about JMS and JNDI and JMS providers. So what is JMS? You can think of JMS as a specification, an API that describes a common way for Java programs to create, send, and receive and read distributed enterprise messages. Okay, so just to be clear, messaging services, messaging server technology has been around for many, many years, more than about 30 years. Okay, what JMS does is basically providing a standard API so that your JMS applications can be portable over different messaging server technologies, whether that is ActiveMQ or IBM messaging service. Regardless of what messaging server that you're using underneath, your application could be portable if it's using JMS API. Okay. All right. So it provides loosely coupled communication. So messaging services provide typically loosely coupled communication, meaning the sender of the message does not really have to know the concrete destination address of the where it wants to send a message to. Okay, so that's the reason it says loosely coupled. Instead, it will use what is called a symbolic name to send a message. Okay, it also supports what is called asynchronous messaging, meaning the sender of the message can just send a message and move on. It doesn't have to wait for the response from the destination. Another thing messaging service provide is reliable message delivery. So in fact, this is the reason why messaging server has been around for many, many years in enterprise organization, because in enterprise organization, reliable message delivery is critical. For example, when you are sending a message of purchasing 1,000 shares of IBM, you want to make sure that message gets delivered in highest reliable manner, meaning it should get delivered once and only once, meaning it cannot afford to lose the message in the middle, and it cannot afford to duplicate delivery of the same message. Okay, so you don't want actually purchase of 1,000 shares of IBM gets actually delivered multiple times. Okay, so messaging server will guarantee this reliable message delivery. Okay, once and only once message delivery, or sometimes it can actually make sure the messages are delivered in the order. Okay, so that your application does not really have to deal with this reliable message delivery. Okay, so that's the role of the messaging server. JMS does not talk about security services or management services. These are the services that are provided by the messaging server itself. Okay, so moving forward, EJB MDB. Actually, that is actually wrong. So I should say JMS environment here. That's actually misplaced. So let's talk about JMS environment. JMS environment is made of multiple players. JMS client. So JMS client is the Java application that sends and receives messages. Okay, so we call send of the message and receive of the message all JMS clients. The reason we call JMS client is because these are clients of the messaging server. Okay, so they are the clients using services of JMS provider. Okay, and then of course messages need to be constructed, and there is also what is called the administered object. So these are the objects. This is the this is the resource objects the system administrator has to configure. So these are pre-configured JMS objects created by the sysadmin for the use of JMS clients. And there are two types of administered objects that need to be created by the sysadmin on your JMS server. By the way, most app servers comes with the JMS server built in. Okay, so we are basically dealing with the Glassfish or WebSphere and things like that. So when we in fact create these two administered object, connection factory and destination, we are going to actually use Glassfish admin console to create them. Okay. All right. So these connection factory and destination, those are the administered object that need to be created. Okay. And then on the bottom you have a messaging server. So this is the sometimes you call the JMS provider, sometimes you call messaging server, or sometimes you call messaging service. Okay, so these are all same things. So this is a messaging system that actually provides the underlying messaging engine. Okay, so this messaging system should actually provide JMS implementation. So JMS client will actually use JMS API, and that API needs to be implemented per server basis. Okay, and also administrative functionality. So you are going to use this administrative functionality, or the console, to create this administered objects. All right, so this is JMS administration. Basically, you as an administrator will actually use administration tool to create those the administered object, connection factory and destination object. Okay, and those objects are going to be the referenced through JNDI. Okay, so your JMS client will look up this JMS object. Okay, and once it has a reference to those administered object, connection factory and destination, then it can actually make a call to make a connection to JMS provider, and then it can send the message or receive the message through JMS provider. Okay, so we are going to do exercise 1. So here we are going to create JMS admin object. So let's take a look at the lab documentation. So I'm going to ask you guys to follow with me step by step, okay? Because this might involve a little bit, okay? So where is JMS basics? Here we go. So we're going to actually create this JMS administered object, okay? So you have to create, you have to open admin console. So let me just do that, okay? So the way you are going to create admin console is go to the servers and right click and select Glassfish and then view admin console, okay? So this is the admin console you should see. Okay, so let me just close this guy. And I'm going to actually have half and half like this. Okay. Okay, so we just opened the admin console. Okay. And now we are going to create the connection factory object. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the connection factory later on in detail. Okay. So the way you are going to create this is go to JMS resources first, and then click connection factories. So you go here. You have JMS resources, right? So you want to expand it and connection. So there are two resources, connection factory and destination resource. So click this guy, double click, and you are going to see JMS connection factories. For now, you're going to see just one, okay? In my case, I have already created one. So that's the reason I see this guy. So in your case, you probably see just this, okay? So you are going to click New, okay? And then you are going to create the new connection factory by providing information like this, okay? So basically, you are going to just copy JMS connection factory, and here, this is a JNDI name which you are going to use, and then for resource type, you are going to this is something that you are going to select, okay? So resource type is basically between the connection factory, or so here you are going to choose the connection resource type. Resource type, try to connect the queue. I should actually say queue, okay? let me see, queue connection factory. So we are going to actually create the topic and as well as the queue connection factory. And even though the exercise, we're going to mostly work with the queue connection factory. And then the status, make sure it's enabled. Okay. And then you're going to click OK. Right. So since I've done that already, I'm not going to actually do it. So in my case, I'm going to just cancel it. Okay, so I have already done this, so you can see, I actually choose the topic, okay, but we are going to actually create the queue as well, okay, so it doesn't matter. Actually, I'm going to actually change it to queue. Actually, I want to actually create the cubes. So I'm going to, in fact, create a brand new one myself. I'm going to this guy. I'm going to delete. And I'm going to create a new one, which will select the queue. All right, so I'm going to say new. And JND name is my connection factory. And I want to select queue. Oh, I'm sorry. So here you can just, you can just select the connection factory. I think this one is good enough. Okay, and this is good, and then okay. All right. So I have my connection factory. And then let me just go like this. And then we are going to create the destination. So you are going to this time click destination resources. So click destination resources, double click it. Here you are going to create the my queue and my topic. Okay, so I have already created one. So here you are going to create the click new. And here you're going to give a name, JMS/myQ, and this is a physical destination name, and select resource type, and OK. And you also create a topic. We are not using topic in our example, so just creating a queue is probably good enough. But for the exercise, we are going to say new and topic. And so at this point, I have actually created two destination, my queue and my topic. OK. All right, so I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes to finish this. Then we're going to actually go to the actual programming. Okay, so JMS messaging modes. So JMS messaging modes could be one of these two, point-to-point or publish and subscribe. Pops up sometimes it is called. So point-to-point model is that it's built around the concept of message queue. So it is actually a queue, and the sender of the message can actually send messages to this queue. So there could be multiple senders. However, there could be only one consumer. Okay, so because it's a queue, if a message is consumed by someone, then message is gone. Okay, nobody will be able to see the same message. On the other hand, pops up model uses a concept of topic instead of queue. Okay, so point model is using queue. However, pops up model is using a topic. So sender will send the messages to this topic, and this message could be consumed by multiple consumers. Now, these consumers have to register their intention of receiving messages to the topic. Okay, so when topic receive a message, it will distribute a message to all those listeners who showed interest of getting that message. Okay, so this is a point-to-point messaging model. So this is a queue, and the client 1 and client 2, and there could be in fact multiple clients that send a message to the same queue. And then there could be in fact multiple clients, but message will be consumed only by a single client. Okay, so if it is consumed by client 2, then that message is gone. Okay, so this point-to-point model could be actually useful when you happen to have some kind of computation task. Okay, and there could be in fact a multiple the tasker, the task handler, who takes the task object and handle it. Okay, and so whenever there is actually task to be handled, these multiple clients will actually queue them up here, and then task handler. Yeah, so this is the task sender and task handler side, and task handler will just grab one from the queue and handle it, and that task is going to be gone. Okay, so that's point-to-point model. Now, this is a pub/sub model. So again, there could be multiple clients that publish their message to this topic. And then there could be multiple clients that subscribe this topic, and all those clients who subscribe the message, subscribe the topic actually, is basically indicating its interest of getting messages. So when topic receive a message, it will send that message to all the clients who subscribed. So example usage example of pub/sub model is something like this. Suppose if you are writing enterprise application, well, in an organization, you might in fact have payroll application, you have the utility application, facility application. So whenever new employee is hired, there are many applications that need to handle it. So payroll application needs to add that person to the payroll. Facility application needs to handle for that new person, like assign an office, assign a phone number, and things like that. There could be, legal application that has to handle the fact that the new person is hired or something like that. Okay, so in a typical organization, there are many applications that need to be notified when the new person is hired. Right? So in that case, it could be actually good usage model for pub/sub messaging. So in that case, whenever a new person is hired, a message that indicates the new person will be sent to a topic, and all these applications, payroll applications or legal applications and facilities application, they actually subscribe this topic. This topic could be like a new person hired topic or something like that. And whenever new person hired object message is, whenever new person hired message is actually published to a topic, all those applications will receive that message, and it will, they all do whatever they have to do. So that is actually a good example for using pub/sub messaging model. Okay, so let's talk about the message consumption mode. Message consumer, so in consumer, could be either synchronously and asynchronously. Okay, so in this case, synchronously means that the receiver of the message will ask for the message, and if there is no message, it will block. It will wait until there is a message. Okay, either on a queue or a topic. So the receiving mode is a block until message arrives, okay, or it could time out. Okay. Async model is that the receiver can register an event listener to a consumer. Okay, so basically and then it can move on. And if there is a message delivered, then this message listener will be invoked to handle the message. And this message listener should have this onMessage method. So this onMessage method will be invoked with the message that was delivered. Okay, so this is async mode. So we're going to try both. All right, so let's talk about the programming API. So we just kind of learned how JMS works and what are the players in the JMS. So in the players, the JMS environment, as we talked about, there is a messaging server on the bottom, and then you have administered object, a connection factory and destination, and then there is a message, and then you have a JMS clients. The JMS clients are the ones that send and receive messages. Okay. All right, so this is the JMS API programming model. So there is actually a connection factory object. This is the administered object that we already created. Okay. From the connection factory object, you can create a connection. From the connection, you create a session. And using the session, you can create a message. Okay, so from the session, you can create the message producer, and the message producer can create a message and send it to the destination. From the session, you also create a message consumer, and message consumer will receive a message, okay, from the destination. So this destination could be either topic or a queue, okay? And from session, you can also create a message, okay? So let's take a look at the programming API. So this is an example for setting up a connection and then creating a session, and then you can actually see how we can send a message. Okay, so this is a common code for all JMS client, whether that JMS client is playing the role of a sender or a receiver. First, you are going to get the JNDI initial context object, and then you're going to look up the connection factory. So that connection factory is the one that we have created already, right? So you got the connection factory object, and from the connection factory object, you're going to create a connection. And from the connection, you're going to create a session, okay? And once you got the session object, then you should be able to produce a message. That's actually in the next slide. You also have to have a destination object. So for point to point, you are going to actually have a destination. Again, you're going to actually do JNDI lookup. Okay, so this is the name of the queue that we have created, right? And this is for name of the topic. So this is used for point, and this is used for publish and subscribe. Okay, so once you got the session object, then this is a producer or sender example. So you can set up, and yes, this is what we have already done in previous slide. Then from a session, you can create a producer object. So this is a message producer, okay, providing a destination. Then you can create a message. So there are 5 different type of messages you can create, and the most simple type of message is a text message. So here we are going to create a text message, and then we are going to set the message like just another message or whatever. Then we can send. Then we can close a connection. So this is the sender JMS client example. Pretty straightforward, right? This is a consumer. Consumer could be either synchronous consumer or asynchronous consumer, as we talked about. Okay, so again, the consumer has to set up connection and create a session, as we have seen in previous slide. And then again, from a session, you can create a message consumer object, and then from the connection, you can start. So this is basically indication that I'm ready to receive a message. Okay. The reason there is a start method is because sometimes even though everything is ready, you're not ready to receive the message, right? So that's the reason by calling start, you're basically indicating to the messaging server that as a consumer, I'm ready to receive the message. Okay, and so this is a synchronous model. So you call receive method, and this will block until there is a message. Okay. Okay, so here we are going to do exercise 2. In this case, we are going to create producer, and here we are going to run synchronous consumer. Okay, so in this case, consumer will block until producer send messages. Okay, so let's take a look at exercise 2 documentation. So you are going to build a job file, JMS producer and JMS sync producer. Okay, so you can just open the JMS project in either NetBeans or Eclipse. These are all Maven project. Okay, so you are going to the JMS producer and right-click and run as, and Maven install. So it will basically create a job file. Okay, so the job file that you're going to use is this is the location. Okay, so I have this project under labs. Okay, and later on you have to actually provide the exact location of this job file. Okay, all right, and my documentation is assumed that I have JMS basics under labs. Okay, but in your case it might not. All right, so when you actually provide the location of this job file, you have to actually make sure that you specify correct path to this job file. Okay, so that job file is created. Okay, so like this. And if you take a look at the producer code, this is something that I explained in the slide. So basically, we have initial context, okay? And then we are looking for my connection factory, okay? And we also actually have a destination name. So destination name is, in this case, yeah, so when we run it, we are going to actually provide the destination name, okay? So, the destination name will be provided as a command line argument. And then here we create a connection object, and then we create a session object, then we create a producer object, and then we set the text message, and then we are sending this message 3 times. Okay, so now message is set to 3, hard-coded. Okay, so we are sending this message 3 times. So this is a producer. This is the the sync consumer, synchronous consumer. Again, you are going to build this guy. Sync consumer. So right click, run as, and Maven install. Okay, so again, you have to, so here, it create this job file. Okay. And now if you take a look at the code is pretty much again the same deal that I have shown in the slide. So we have an initial context, and we are looking for the connection factory object, and then we also have a destination. Again, this is coming from the command line, okay, argument. And here we create a consumer from a session, then it start the message, and then it call receive. Okay, so it's actually receiving, and we are in a loop, right? So it's going to actually keep receiving messages, right? All right, so now we are going to run. Now you have to actually run the program under the glassfish bin, okay? So you have to go to glassfish bin directory. In my case, it's on the glassfish for glassfish. I installed it right here. The way you can find out where glassfish is installed is go to the servers, and you can right click this guy and properties, and glassfish. Yeah, so this is the where your glassfish is installed. Okay, so in my case, it's installed under servers and glassfish 4. So you have to go servers glassfish 4 and glassfish/bin. Okay, so that is where my glassfish is installed. So in your case, you have to actually make sure you go to the correct path. Okay, and then you are going to open a open a terminal, window terminal here, and I'm gonna actually go to this directory in my case. Okay, and I'm going to run the consumer. So this guy is going to wait. You can see everything is okay, and it's actually waiting for messages, right? So I'm going to run it. So you have to run app client application. So this app client is actually application within glassfish, and then you specify client, and then you have to actually specify the job file location. This is the job file location in my case. All right. So if you actually unzip JMS basics on the labs, then you can just copy this thing. And this is the destination, which we have created, right? So I'm going to copy this guy and run it. All right, so destination name is JMS/myQ, initial context is created, and then it will wait for the message. Okay, so this is what you're going to see, right? Then we are going to run the producer. Okay, so it's waiting for the message. So now I'm gonna open another terminal window. Again, I go to the glassfish bin directory, and then I'm going to, in this case, I'm running producer, and I'm actually sending 3 messages. Yeah, so this is the number of messages. You can change this one to 5, 6, whatever number you want. So here I'm going to send a message. Again, this job file is the job file that you have created. Make sure you are providing correct path. Okay. So here I am going to copy this guy, and oops, I have to run in different terminal. Producer. Okay. So here I'm sending 3 messages to the consumer. Well, actually not to the consumer, but to the queue, meaning destination. And in this case, it sends the 3 messages, and you should actually see in the receiver now receive these messages. Okay, so that's what you should see. Okay, and yeah, so this is the receiver. Okay, all right, so that is exercise 2. Okay, so let's get started again. So this is a consumer example, asynchronous consumer example. So basically you do the same thing, set up the connection, creating a session, create a consumer, and then these 2 bullets are specific to asynchronous consumer. So register the listener. You have to create a listener object, and then you are going to register that listener object to the consumer. And then you have to implement this myListener class. MyListener class, all it has to do is basically having this onMessage event handler. So when message gets delivered, messages are received either on the queue or the topic. This onMessage of this listener will be invoked with that message. So this is an example. So in this case, onMessage gets delivered with a message, and you do whatever you want. So in this case, we are just checking whether that's the text message, and then we are just reading that message. Okay, nothing fancy. All right, so now in exercise 3, we are going to run synchronous and asynchronous consumers with the producer. Actually, this time we are going to just run the async consumer with the producer, not synchronous. Okay, so let's take a look at the lab documentation. So here we are going to create async consumer project. Okay, so we are going to async consumer. We're going to build it, run as. You can just build it. You don't have to install it. Okay, so I'm going to just build it this time. What am I doing? Run as Maven build. It's setting configuration. I don't know why. Anyway, so I'm gonna just Maven install. Okay, so again, you are going to have a location where the job file is created. Okay, so what we're gonna do this time is let's make sure everything is closed. Okay, so here we are going to run the async consumer. Okay, so here, yeah, we just build it, and this is the code. And basically what we are going to do is this is the same, and basically this is this red colored code is the async consumer specific. So we created text listener object, and then we register that text listener object to the consumer. Then we start, and then we have this text listener class which implement message listener, and then basically all it does is basically just displaying the message by calling get message method. Okay. All right, so here we are going to run the async consumer number 1. Yeah, so here we are going to actually run 2 async consumer. Okay, and you can actually run the sync consumer as well. It's completely up to you. And then we have a single producer. So what happens is, because we have 2 consumers and 1 producer, the messages will be taken by consumer 1 and consumer 2. They will be taking the messages. And basically what happens is that among 3 messages, 2 messages are going to be consumed by 1, and the 1 message will be consumed by the other one. So basically, message will be consumed just once by a single consumer. Again, because this is actually point-to-point model, the queue model. Okay, so if you try my topic, if you actually try publish and subscribe model, and then multiple consumers will be able to actually receive the same message. Okay. All right, so let's try run this code. So here I'm going to run 1 async consumer, and I'm going to have this one here, I'm going to have another consumer. So I'm going to run the same consumer. So we have two consumers, okay? All right. And then we are going to send the producer. So I'm going to actually send 5 or 6 messages. So producer, so here instead of 3 messages, I'm going to send about 7 messages, okay? And these 7 messages will be consumed by these 2. So 7 messages are sent, and this consumer consumes 1, 2, 3, 6, and the other consumer should actually consume the rest of it. So yes, 1, 2, 3, 6, and the other one is this one. Yeah, so 4, 5, 7. Okay, so and if I send it again, if I actually send it again, it will consume those messages again. All right, so I'll give you guys about the 5 minutes to try this. Okay, all right. Okay, so JMS messages. Okay, so JMS messages. JMS message is made of this part: message header, message properties, and message body. And header is the only mandatory part of it. So it's used for identifying and routing messages. So it contains some system information that is going to be used by messaging server. It might actually contain vendor-specific values, but could also contain application-specific data. Okay, and these are typically name-value pairs. Message properties and message body. What's important in message body is the message body contains the data. And as I mentioned to a question, there are 5 different message body types in the JMS specification. Okay, so these are 5 different message type. Text message, that's the one that we work with. It could be map message. These are name value pairs. Okay, so you can actually use these methods, set string, set double, set long, to set things up. Byte message is a stream of uninterpreted bytes. Okay, so if you want to actually send some kind of binary file, like image file, things like that, you could actually use this one. Stream message is a stream of primitive values, and then object message is for serialized object. Okay. Okay, moving forward, the message-driven bean. So one of the message type, one of the EJB bean type is a message-driven bean. And message-driven bean can act as an event message listener for the JMS. Okay, so it could receive messages asynchronously. And it's a specialized adaptation of JMS API used in the context of Java EE application. I should say Java EE application rather than J2EE application. So this is the MDB instance, EJB container. So in this case, MDB instance is playing the role of async message listener. Okay. So the coding is pretty much the same. So basically, you are going to have message-driven annotation indicating that this is the MDB, message-driven bean, and then you specify what is the name of the queue, and then it does have onMessage, the method. Okay, so it works pretty much the same as async message handler. Okay. All right, so let's do exercise 4. Okay, exercise 4. So here we are going to build and run JMS MDB consumer project. So this is the Java EE application. So you are going to build. So you can see this is the parent project, and it does have ER, EJB, and web application. Okay, so if you take a look at the pom.xml file of consumer, it does have a child project of these 3 modules. Okay, so build this guy, run as, and maven install, and then we are going to deploy the web application. Okay, and deploy this web application, run as on server. Persistence. Okay, yeah, that's actually the previous change I made. Okay, glassfish and finish. Okay, so you see hello world, and you basically says, JMS MDB consumer was successfully deployed. Okay, so it's deployed. So now what we are going to do is, so we run as, and then it's deployed. And you can take a look at this MDB code. So if you take a look at this EJB, on the EJB module, and you're going to see my MDB Java, and then you're going to see this MDB beans, and this is the JMS queue, and then on message is pretty much the same code that we have seen in asynchronous message consumer. Okay, it will just display the message. Okay, so we are going to send some messages. So we're going to actually send some messages. Okay, so let's actually make sure we close all the receiver so that the message doesn't get received. These guys. Okay, so I'm going to kill all the existing event listener. So I can say Q. Okay, so I don't have any messages being. So I'm going to just clean this guy, and I am going to send a message. So this is the sender, so I'm going to just send the 7 messages. Okay, and what we are going to observe is that basically in the console we should actually observe the messages being received. Okay, so this is the message, reading message in the message driven bean. This is a message number 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so it is delivered in this case out of order because that's not the reliability requirement that we set. Okay, so that is basically what you are going to observe. Okay, all right, so I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes to try this exercise, and I think that is, yeah, there is, yeah, okay, so I think there are a few other things. So okay, JMS providers. So we call this JMS provider as messaging server or messaging system. These are the software that is playing the role of making sure the messages gets delivered to the destination in reliable and asynchronous fashion. So JMS providers, there are several examples. Glassfish comes with Glassfish messaging queue. So it comes with the Glassfish server. Apache ActiveMQ is another open source messaging server, and IBM WebSphere MQ is another commercial version of messaging server. JMS tools. So there is what is called the JMS browser. This is actually a tool that you can use. Let me just give you what it is, and then we'll just move on. So this is you can download this JMS browser, and you can yeah, so this is in fact the commercial, so you can actually pick and choose whatever server that you are using. Okay, and then you can, so whenever a messages are being delivered, you can actually monitor those messages. Okay, and you can see the contents of it, and so you can think of it like a sniffer of the JMS messages. Okay, all right, so nothing fancy, so I am going to stop right here.